From a massive reach advantage to taking Francis Ngannou's spot as the hardest hitter of the UFC. Sergei Pavlovich, he's been on an absolute carnage ever since his loss to Alistair Overeem, with a recovery that has resulted in an incredible winning streak. But can Tom Aspinall end the Russian behemoth's winning streak? Let's find out. Meet Sergei Pavlovich, who comes from a cozy Russian village called Orlovsky, where his fighting career began. Sergei jumped into the world of Sambo at the young age of 5, a very unique Russian martial art that all the Dagestani beasts like Islam Makhachev are using to dominate their opponents. In fact, it was his amazing Sambo skills that earned him a place in the UFC and his first fight against Alistair Overeem in 2018. More on that later. Needless to say, Sergei came back with a bang and won his next 2 fights against Marcelo Golm and Maurice Green, all thanks to his freakish knockout power. I mean, seriously, he's got 15 knockouts under his belt. But his most memorable fight happened at UFC Fight Night 149. Sergei went up against Marcelo Golm and he unleashed his powerful punches in the first round. Golm had absolutely no chance. This also earned him a Performance of the Night bonus and put him on the map as an up-and-coming UFC star. He's also a big fan of Jon Jones, and he has also showed how much he admires the current heavyweight champion in an interview. He even looks forward to fighting him one day, and considering that he's filling in UFC 295 because Jones had an injury, maybe beating Tom Aspinall could get him that fight. But for now, Pavlovich's next fight is going to be against Tom Aspinall. And Jailton Almeida, Pavlovich's coach, has predicted that Pavlovich will win this fight and smash Aspinall. And he could be right, especially since Pavlovich's knockout power and Sambo skills are out of this world. Unlike many fighters, this guy approaches combat with a thoughtful and strategic mindset. While most fighters try to become more well-rounded, Sergei has chosen a different path for a good reason. You see, some fighters in the heavyweight division have dominated their opponents because of their power, like Francis Ngannou. And with him no longer in the picture, Sergei seems to be filling that void. After all, not only does he have some of the most powerful punches, but he's also a very big guy, standing at 6 feet 3 inches with a wingspan that stretches to 7 feet. On top of that, he's a very skilled boxer. So, of course, it made sense that his UFC journey had to start by facing a guy like Overeem in 2018. When Sergei faced Alistair, it was a very interesting bout. Alistair took a cautious approach, not trying to outbox Sergei but waiting for the right moment. Eventually, he executed an unusual standing sweep from the clinch, catching Sergei off guard. This left Sergei vulnerable on the ground, and Alistair capitalized on that. He transitioned to side control and secured a takedown, which concluded the fight with Alistair delivering ground and pound strikes that knocked out Sergei. But this fight took place when Sergei was just 26 years old, and he's definitely improved since then, because we haven't seen him in a similar situation since then. In fact, Sergei's been knocking out his opponents before they even have a chance to grapple with him. But I will say one weakness in Sergei's game is his susceptibility to kicks. This is because he tends to put a lot of weight on his front leg, a lot like a boxer. This leaves him exposed to kicks and punches that can throw him off balance. However, no one has dared to challenge Sergei in boxing and live to tell the story. He's widely regarded as one of the most dangerous fighters in the heavyweight division, combining freakish levels of punching power with a high level of technical expertise. Tom Aspinall isn't so bad either with his 11-2 record, so he's going to put up a strong fight. Tom Aspinall's journey into martial arts began at the age of 7, as he followed in his father's footsteps, training at the Lee Self-Defense Studio in Lee, Greater Manchester. His initial focus was on jiu-jitsu, but he later diversified into wrestling and boxing. But after a while, he went back into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it didn't take long for him to realize just how good he was at it. I mean, he won the British Open in various belt classes consistently, except for the black belt division. Tom made his debut in the UFC at UFC Fight Night 172 in 2020, facing Jake Collier. And unlike Sergei's debut, he secured his first UFC victory with a first-round TKO. One of Aspinall's most impressive performances was against Alexander Volkov at UFC Fight Night 204. This bout showcased just how good his jiu-jitsu, striking, and ability to finish fights was, cause he managed to turn the tide of the fight with a well-executed straight armbar. But he was equally good at clinch throws, transitions, and takedowns from the knees. Now he has a very, very good defense because of his fluid fighting style. The man can slip away from punches like butter, which could help him against someone like Sergei. Not only that, but Tom has very dynamic movement, and he makes sure he's never standing still during fights. This fluidity is what actually helps him against opponents like Sergei, because this means they'll also need to be careful when Tom takes them to the ground. I mean, if he puts you on the mat and you assume a turtled position, he's quick to capitalize, seeking a rear naked choke or an armbar like he did with Volk. Standing tall at 6'5" and weighing in at 257 pounds, Tom Aspinall has some of the most impressive physical attributes that complement his fighting style. He has a professional boxing record with no losses, which is clear when you see him fight. The man has beautiful combinations, remarkable speed, and extraordinary kicks that have left their mark in the UFC. However, there have been instances, especially in the Andrei Arlovski fight, where Tom took a bunch of hits. But in his defense, Arlovski was a former UFC heavyweight champion past his prime. So that's probably why Tom was willing to have a slugfest. As long as he doesn't do that with Sergei, he shouldn't really have a problem. After all, when you look at their MMA records, Tom Aspinall has had 3 losses, in contrast to Sergei Pavlovich's one and only defeat. His most recent loss was against Curtis Blades at UFC Fight Night 208, where he suffered a knee injury and lost via first-round TKO. But Tom is also coming off a win against Marcin Tybura and aims to continue building his winning streak, and so is Sergei, which is what makes this fight so exciting. Considering the styles and attributes of these two fighters, it's not likely to be a closely contested match. There are 2 plausible outcomes for their fight. For starters, Tom could leverage his well-rounded skill set to maintain distance and use his mobility to escape Sergei's powerful punches. In such a scenario, he can also use calf kicks effectively, subsequently setting up body kicks and head kicks when Sergei goes in for the kill. Or he can exploit opportunities for knees and elbows, potentially leading to a takedown, a submission, or ground and pound. If Tom goes through with this strategy, an early finish by knockout or submission in the second round could be on the cards. However, Sergei is very good at counterattacks, and if Tom gets caught and knocked down, it could lose him the fight in the first round. Although Tom is a pretty good boxer himself, each punch he throws in this fight could be countered by Sergei, because parrying is his specialty. The challenge for Tom is maintaining a balance between confusion and attacks, while being cautious if he does decide to box. But at the end of the day, both fighters have the size and skills for an intense fight. Sure, Sergei has a track record which suggests he could have another first-round knockout victory. But if he fails to knock out Tom, he might just win by unanimous decision through his grappling or secure a submission if he's lucky. Could this be the toughest fight of Tom's career? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more about the UFC 295 card.